All right, man, peace. So, brothers, when I heard the news this morning about Anthony Davis finally coming forth and making public what we've all known for so long, that being that he was eventually going to demand a trade and that his preference is going to be to go play with his idol in LA for the Lakers. We all know that he wants to team up with LeBron James. I thought about that Tupac line in Juice when Tupac says, "The brother fine decided to step up like a man and throw down." I'm like, damn, it took this one eyebrow having nigga long enough to decide that he's going to have the courage to come forth and say how he's always felt from the start, because we've all known that the fix was in. The quote-unquote fix. As soon as he signed with Rich Paul and Clutch Sports, we knew that Anthony Davis was firmly under the control of LeBron James Incorporated. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Now we are getting somewhere. All right, let's jump right into this because we have enormous news. The Super Bowl is less than a week away, and certainly that's what we anticipated talking this morning. And then the Anthony Davis thing happened.
And this entire thing was strategic because this gap between the championship games in the NFL and the Super Bowl provides that window for certain factions to put out certain narratives for the media to talk about over the course of those 2 weeks, because as we all know, the media can get a little bit redundant and tiresome with their constant repetitive stories about what the left guard for the New England Patriots mother likes to put in his thermos before practice and all these other silly, inane, idiotic stories. So if you're an agent for a top NBA athlete or even an athlete in the NCAAs and you want to get a certain sentiment out there, this is prime real estate, this time period in between the football championship games and the Super Bowl, for you to let it be known what exactly it is that your grievance is. So this was all strategic. Rich Paul, LeBron James, when they sat Anthony Davis down at that little dinner after the New Orleans Pelicans played the LA Lakers in LA, and LeBron James came up and he hugged AD after the game and he said, "I'll talk to you later, or I'll see you at dinner." That's what they discussed. They discussed how he was going to handle his end and how Rich Paul was going to handle the Clutch Sports end. Play it cool. Eventually, we're going to come out with this story right after the AFC-NFC Championship games, so that you'll be in prime position to put us in the lead seat to possibly attain your services. Because the LA Lakers already know that if they wait until July, the Boston Celtics are going to be able to provide a much better package for the New Orleans Pelicans than they will be able to do. So this is that time period right now, this little 9-10 day window where they're going to give Magic Johnson an opportunity to really mortgage the entire team to try to get Anthony Davis. If I'm the New Orleans Pelicans, I'm looking at the Lakers and I'm saying there's nothing that you can offer me outside of LeBron James for Anthony Davis. Nothing. And to be quite frank with you, if I have to go through the draft to build up my team, because we're not going to get any real assets anyway, if I have to go through my draft to build up the team, we might as well be bad. And Anthony Davis, you could sit your ass here for the next year and a half. And you could deal with the boos and the ridicule since you want to jump ship and you can't be a man about it. You can't build up your own legacy on this team. That's how I'm looking at it if I'm a member of the top brass with the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, from the Anthony Davis perspective, I understand why he wants to go to a place that will put him in a far more advantageous position to win a championship. But if I'm with the New Orleans Pelicans, ain't no way in the world I'm helping the LA Lakers win another championship. No way in the world.
His agent, Rich Paul, has, according to our Adrian Wojnarowski, a news that broke just shortly before we came on the air this morning for Get Up, informed the New Orleans Pelicans that Anthony Davis has no intention of re-signing there this coming summer, and in fact has requested a trade. And so the way we are looking at this, and Stephen A., we just talked about this on Get Up, we're looking at this in some ways as sort of a 10-day window, because the trade deadline is 10 days away, February 7th, for Magic Johnson and the Los Angeles Lakers to get Anthony Davis to LA. Can they do it?
I have no idea why so many more teams are not going to Adam Silver and bringing up the collusion issue, because I've been talking about this for the longest time. How could you have the most prominent player in the NBA also be directly associated with an agency that also can take in the other top athletes in the NBA and bring them under my umbrella? There has to be a conflict of interest here. This is why I made the video about the GM of the Milwaukee Bucks, who in my view was the person who first started to bring forth many of these innuendos pertaining to possible collusion with LeBron James, courting the other athletes who are not in big market franchises or not a member of a team that is in an illustrious city. That's going to hurt you. If you draft a Giannis Antetokounmpo, if you draft an Anthony Davis, and LeBron James can get them to sign to his agency, all of a sudden he has inroads to pull them out from those teams and come play with him. And that's going to hurt a lot of these other markets who are spending a lot of money not only to scout these prospective NBA stars, but also to develop them. So this is something that the NBA is going to have to deal with, because this is a burgeoning problem. What Kawhi Leonard did was he created a new paradigm where you could stretch out an injury if you don't like the team and how they're dealing with you, and you could force a trade. Right now, what Anthony Davis is doing is he's combining what Kyrie Irving did 2 years ago with what Kawhi Leonard did last year. And the NBA is going to have to get on top of this.
I sincerely doubt it. And I'm praying that I'm wrong, because obviously I would love for Anthony Davis to be in Los Angeles.
Now, brothers, did you hear that? This is the reason why the media can't be trusted. Because they have their own agendas and they have ulterior motives. When they get on TV and they talk about how such and such player should leave their current team and go sign with LeBron, it's because they want to be able to go out to LA. They want to help their boo thing, LeBron James, win another championship or two. And they want to be able to bask in the sunlight of being able to go to LA during the Western Conference Finals and hang out with the trannies and hang out with the hoes and you know, chill out with the Instagram thotties and all that other shit. That's what they're concerned with.
And I think it's important and appropriate that we recognize that we're putting Magic Johnson in the spotlight. Anthony Davis is not in the spotlight here. It was a foregone conclusion from the moment he signed with Clutch Sports that he wanted out.
Absolutely.
That's the reason he went with Rich Paul and Clutch Sports, because any agent could get him the max dollars. It was never an issue there. Rich Paul has been wanting this out publicly for months. The fact is, Anthony Davis wouldn't give the okay to publicize it because he didn't want to go to work every day working for the Pelicans and in front of those great fans. Everybody knows that it's official. He wants out. But in order to give Magic Johnson the window of opportunity that he was so craving, you had to make this public. And now it gives Magic basically the floor for the next 10 days with limited competition. Anybody else that tries to get Anthony Davis has no intention of signing with them long term. The one team that's a competitor in all of this is Boston. And because of the Rose rule with Kyrie Irving and all of that stuff, you've got to move him elsewhere in order to get Anthony Davis in Boston.
And I don't think that Boston is going to do that. I don't think that they are. But then again, with Danny Ainge, you never know. I'll say this once again: if I'm the New Orleans Pelicans, there's nothing that the LA Lakers have on their roster that's going to make me trade with them. If anything, I'm going to look Anthony Davis dead in his unibrow having face and let him know you're going to be here for the remainder of your 1.5-year contract, unless there's another team that has marketable assets that we can utilize to build up our team right away. Your ass is going to be here. So you can tell that little midget, Rich Paul, to calm his ass down and go report back to LeBron James and let him know what we said, because you ain't going anywhere. We're not going to help the Lakers win another championship on our dime. We're not the AAA franchise for the LA Lakers.
I don't know if Boston wants to do that unless they're definitive about Anthony Davis's willingness to sign long-term with them. Magic Johnson is officially in the spotlight and under the gun because he has this window before the NBA trading deadline with no competition to get it done. If anybody can do it, Magic Johnson can, but the odds of him pulling this off, in my estimation, Max, are slim, because I don't believe that the Pelicans are going to be cooperative.
Nor should they.
That's my reservation. It's not about Magic. It's about the Pelicans cooperating.
Right, but what we know is that right now Magic Johnson is under the gun. Magic Johnson has to make this work. Because if he loses Anthony Davis to the Boston Celtics, he'll never be able to live this down.
The odds are against it. Like, if you want to lay odds, you should get odds. You know, it's a long shot. But I put my money on Magic getting it done. He got LeBron.
If he gets it done, it's going to be because Adam Silver steps in. Once again, if Magic Johnson is able to get this deal done, it's because LeBron James' boo thing, Adam Silver, is going to step in and let everybody know, look, we're an entertainment league. We're not going to have LeBron James out there for 4 years just languishing. We're going to give him help because it's what's best for the league overall. And I've been telling you guys for the longest time that eventually Adam Silver will step in if the negotiations are not going how he wants them to go.
LeBron James done. You know, the Lakers had cap space for years and years and years, and no one would sign with the Lakers. and they got the biggest. Listen, LeBron James is worth 2 MVP players.
Now, brothers, you hear that? This fool said LeBron James is worth 2 MVP players. See, this is what Kevin Durant is talking about when he mentions the toxicity surrounding LeBron James. Why the hell would you want to go play with a guy who all of his superfans in the media are going to give all the credit to? You're not going to get any credit. You're going to get all the blame. And they build him up so high, but then make all of these excuses for him when he loses. How could LeBron James be worth 2 MVP caliber players? So basically, what Max Kellerman is saying is that if you took James Harden and Steph Curry, or Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, and put them together, LeBron James is worth both of those players. So if what you're saying is true, Max Kellerman, how could you not understand why people will castigate LeBron James for losing to Golden State? A couple of years ago, LeBron James had Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. Now, according to you, he equals Stephen Curry and Kevin Durant put together. So that's supposed to be a wash. So now it's supposed to come down to Kyrie Irving versus Klay Thompson and Kevin Love versus Draymond Green. So that series at the very least should have went 6-7 games. Why did that only go 5 games? Why did LeBron James get swept last year if he's equivalent to Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry combined? See, those are the type of nonsensical, hyperbolic statements that make players not want to willingly go play with LeBron James. And what Anthony Davis is going to find out, if he does end up in LA, is that once again he's going to be Chris Bosh 2.0.
Like, if you have Steph and KD over here and LeBron over there, and then surround them with similar talent, that's even money, right? Like, give them the equal talent on either side. He is that much better than everyone else, in my opinion. So he got that done. That was the biggest thing. He didn't get Paul George done, a few other things out of his control. He has a window now.
Right now, Paul George is having an even better season than LeBron James. He's not putting up quite the offensive numbers, but defensively, he's been so exemplary that he's actually having a better season than LeBron James, even if LeBron were playing.
Now, what is happening here? This is very easy. Anthony Davis wants to play for the Lakers. That's why you hire Rich Paul.
Even more, Anthony Davis wants to play with LeBron James.
To get you to the Lakers. Every team in the league now knows it. Why would you trade for him? You're going to have to trade a lot, damaging your team, for a rental. How's that working out with Kawhi in Toronto? No one believes Kawhi is going to stay in Toronto.
Right, but it was worth it for the Raptors because at least they can put their best foot forward. And the Raptors have their best chance to win a championship that they've ever had. And I've already done a video on this where there were other NBA executives, I believe even associated with the Raptors, who are basically putting out the notion that even if Kawhi leaves, it was worth it. Because what they were dealing with Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan was so untenable anyway from a psychological perspective. They knew that they were never going to win a championship with that pairing. At least now with Kawhi, they feel like they have the opportunity to potentially win one. So it's worth it. The whole experiment is worth it.
So when he puts it, are you going to gamble all your assets that you can convince Anthony Davis to stay in your mid-market town or your sport? No. Teams are unlikely to do that now. That's why you put it out. So the question is, has putting this out there devalued Anthony Davis as a trade asset to the point where he's on this side, and on the other side, the combination of Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, and Brandon Ingram give you enough trade weight, enough assets to pull it off?
Absolutely not. If I'm the New Orleans Pelicans, a third team has to get involved. Because Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, and Brandon Ingram is not going to get the job done. Now, the real question is going to be, once again, will Adam Silver step in and compensate the Pelicans to the point where he's going to spice up the pot and tell them, you know what? Not only will you get all those assets, we'll spice it up with some draft picks, and maybe you'll end up with the #1 overall draft pick in 2020 and 2021. Who the hell knows? You didn't hear it from me, though.
I would say if you do maybe at least a 3-team deal, and you're going to have to include KCP's expiring contract, Magic will figure out a way to get this done.
The LeBron James deal, Max, was a lot different because he was already planting seeds to come anyway.
Absolutely.
Correct. This is why it's the first time in a long time that he signed a long-term deal, because he knows at this point of his career he wanted to end with one team.
No, he knew that at this point in his career he wanted to end with the Lakers, because that is where his handlers told him that he needed to end up in order to maximize his earning potential. Once again, LeBron James is a Kabbalist. Los Angeles is one of the headquarters for the Kabbalah and Luciferianism overall. And LeBron James is a Luciferian. He's a Saturnian. Okay, so that is why he's out there. He's paired up with Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson is going to play one of his gurus and show him around the town, introduce him to the movers and shakers that he might not already know, and is going to elevate him on that left-hand path scale. That's what that's about. That's why he was so willing to commit to the Lakers long term, because that is where he plans to stay even after he retires.
Versus in Miami or the Cavs, he didn't give them that leverage, which hindered them from actually bringing in other top-tier free agents at certain points. I must make sure I recognize for the people the reason why we're only talking about the Lakers possibly or the Celtics when there are 29 other NBA teams. It is because, A, Anthony Davis can tell the new suitor that he won't re-sign. That leads to what you just said about Kawhi. However, will there be a team that's willing to give up their best or their second best player for Anthony Davis for a short term, knowing that he may not re-sign?
Can I throw something?
Well, that's going to depend on what New Orleans is willing to accept, because that is a great question. And right now they're trying to create this scenario where the Lakers have the inroads and they're the only team supposedly that is going to make offers for Anthony Davis. They've created this context where we're supposed to believe that Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram and Kyle Kuzma are going to be equivalent to Anthony Davis. Once again, we've been inundated with this notion that Anthony Davis is going to be the next best player in the NBA after LeBron James starts to decline. So I have a hard time believing that he believes that, because if he did, he would not be so willing to run up under LeBron James. I think that Anthony Davis understands that in this current NBA, he's never going to be the alpha on a championship team, because this NBA is too dependent on the long-range jump shot, the three-pointer, and because you cannot hand check and get up on your man anymore, these players, they don't even need a post-up game, because there's no threat for you to come up on them defensively and pick their pocket. They can face you up and do whatever they want, because as soon as you stick your hand in, it's a foul. So what that does is that marginalizes the impact of a great center like an Anthony Davis or DeMarcus Cousins or even a Joel Embiid to a degree, even though I think that Embiid is the most impactful center in the game today. What Anthony Davis realizes is that he cannot be the alpha on a championship team today. So that, if anything else, is going to compromise his value to a team other than the Lakers, who have that player who can be an alpha to Anthony Davis.
Something into this conversation that none of you may have heard, because it happened 90 seconds before I left Get Up and came over here. We had Brian Windhorst on live from Los Angeles, NBA insider extraordinaire, and he said there is another team he believes Anthony Davis would consider signing with long term. Max and Stephen A, you're both going to get very excited when I tell you. He said that team is the New York Knicks. And the question is, would the Knicks be willing to trade their first pick unprotected to New Orleans for Anthony Davis? And so the Pelicans would have the option of trading him for a pick that could turn into Zion Williamson. That was Brian Windhorst live with us 90 seconds before we came on here.
Let me say this very quickly before Stephen A. Smith answers. If it is true what Brian Windhorst is reporting about Anthony Davis being interested in the Knicks, which is a possibility, a very remote possibility, I think that many prominent players are using the Knicks for leverage because they know how thirsty the Knicks are. I think many of these top players and their agents are using the Knicks for leverage. But if it is true, one thing I will say is remember that Anthony Davis is very good friends with Kyrie Irving. And it is a possibility that if Anthony Davis can get to the Knicks, that is a sign that Kyrie Irving is going to come to the Knicks as well.
Ryan Windhorst does a fantastic job. Very, very proud of him. I don't believe it.
Me neither.
Not for 1 second.
Which side don't you believe?
I don't believe that Anthony Davis would consider it. I don't believe that for 1 second.
It wouldn't make any sense because he'd be in a worse situation for the rest of the season than he is right now in New Orleans.
The New York Knicks are a moribund franchise. They're struggling miserably. You look at the Brooklyn Nets, the way that they're playing, the amount of cap space that they have, the questionable health of Porzingis. Now, Porzingis was 100%, and he was back, and he was balling, and the Knicks didn't seem as pathetic as they are right now. That's a different scenario. I don't think you are Anthony Davis, and you have the potential existing of the Lakers on one side and the Boston Celtics on another, and you settle for New York. If it were Philly, I would believe.
No, I disagree. I believe that there is a long shot case for the Knicks, because if you're Anthony Davis and you hire Rich Paul, it's because you think you want to be like the biggest star in the world. There are two portals through which we export culture that way: LA and New York.
Agreed.
There are no other markets like it. Don't tell me Silicon Valley, certainly not Boston. Well, the world is different now because of community. Nah, it is, but it's LA or New York. Now, the Knicks have been so dysfunctional that puts them at an enormous disadvantage here. I do believe they would trade any asset they have as far as draft picks go to get Anthony Davis.
Of course they would, but once again, the Knicks, in my view, are being used as leverage. Is there a possibility that Anthony Davis actually wants to go to the Knicks? Yes, but it's remote. I would say maybe 5 to 10%. Anthony Davis wants to go to the Lakers. I don't think that he would mind the Celtics because that might also reunite him with Kyrie, but that can't happen until July.
Here's why the Knicks situation doesn't work to me. It ain't just about what happens off the floor with endorsements. If you're Anthony Davis, you failed as the best player in New Orleans.
Thank you, sir.
To make them a contender.
That's right.
That means you can't go to the Knicks that's already a bad team. That ain't gonna happen.
Thank you, sir.
And Porzingis back.
Here's the thing.
Max Kellerman loves talking about Porzingis like he's Larry Bird or some shit. Once again, Kristaps Porzingis had the opportunity to show himself as a prominent player. Through 25 games, this dude sat down after one of these games and said, "I'm tired." Basically, he was saying he does not have the physical capability nor the mental endurance to lead a team. The pressure was too much. Kristaps Porzingis is a nice player. That's all he is.
The thing, my childhood idol, Magic Johnson, is under the gun.
Absolutely.
Something that he's never been on a 10-day contract. He's on one now. If he's able to get it done, I'm going to tell you what it takes if I'm New Orleans. I'm on the other end of the phone. Of course, I got to take KCP because his money makes it work. I want Kuzma, I want Ingram, I want Ball, I want Zubac, and or Mo Wagner.
Sure. And I want Jeannie Buss, butt naked, with whipped cream on her nipples.
Sure.
Then we'll have a deal.
You can have anything you want.
Correct. But if I'm not getting that deal, then I'm waiting till July, where the Boston Celtics now
which is why I don't believe.
An opportunity
which is
to have
exactly
somebody
why I
else
said
Absolutely, Jalen Rose. You're the only person who stated something that was sensible.
And I don't put the odds in favor of Magic Johnson.
Yeah, it also brings up the possibility. We've heard New Orleans say repeatedly, we're not trading him no matter what happens. There really isn't an obvious upside to them for making a deal right now.
I just real quick, the Lakers will give him anything they want other than LeBron James.
Right, but the question is, will New Orleans accept it, Max Kellerman? Once again, Alvin Gentry is already on record as saying we're not trading Anthony Davis. You could put out whatever misinformation, disinformation that you want to put out. We are not trading Anthony Davis. That's why I'm telling you, brothers, watch out for Adam Silver to very conspicuously stick his nose into this situation.
James. So in other words, all it comes down to is, do they have enough to get the deal done? That's it.
That's us sitting at the table assuming that they're going to give up 5 players for one.
Of course they would.
I'm just saying, they have to do that in order to get it done.
Well, Magic Johnson is desperate. So desperate times demand desperate measures. I don't think that the amount of players is going to be an issue for him. The real question is going to be, are they going to be able to assemble the complementary players to bring out the potential of the LeBron James, Anthony Davis pairing?
Have the first question behind us, but we have a great many still to come, including this.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see how things turn out with this potential Anthony Davis trade. We knew that the trade request was eventually going to come. So peace.